So for most of the people that know me, know that I have a very strong passion for the advancement of technology and how it affects our daily lives. And um, one of the things that truly fascinate me is artificial intelligence. It's the word that is our AI or artificial intelligence is probably, in my opinion, one of the most overused words in companies' marketings because I challenge those companies that say they have AI because a lot of times it's just a good algorithm versus being actual AI. But I'm not an expert on it, so I can't really articulate it, AI well enough. So I'm really excited to have someone from my former company, Baker Tilly, Mary Wilcock. Mary, welcome.
Thanks, Benny.
I'm excited to have you. First and foremost, if you want to just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do and also what your team does at Baker Tilly, that'd be great.
Sure. I am a manager within our enterprise technology and digital solutions team. And I'm a data scientist. So I work with machine learning and AI and build those solutions for our clients. And I work to lead that part of our practice. So figuring out more ways that we can solve problems more intelligently and more systematically for our clients.
Got it. Awesome. And last time you and I talked, we talked about your role and how there's a big focus on HR teams at companies and integrating artificial intelligence into that. So let's kick it off. Talk about how artificial intelligence is affecting HR.
Absolutely. HR is one of the slower areas within industry to be converted over to the world of data and AI, really.
Actually, you know what? If you want to, even before that, just because I love for you to articulate it, can you talk about what is real artificial intelligence? What is AI?
That's a $1 million question, isn't it? AI is tricky because it's such a buzzword. It's interesting, even technically, amongst other data scientists and practitioners. The exact line of like, how does your Venn diagram sit? We've got AI, and we've got machine learning, and we've got maybe predictive analytics. Is a logistic regression machine learning? Is it AI? Is it like, how do those things sit? Like, even from a very technical perspective, is highly debated. So personally, I lean into the skid a little bit and offer a pretty broad definition of what AI is. AI is a system of using algorithms and really math to assess large sets of data to turn that data into knowledge and wisdom. So we know what to do with it so that that data has meaning for us. AI offers us decisions. It's really good at making those decisions for us. So we all see it every day on our phone, right? And it's which ad should you get today? And I will get that ad for the Lexus because I was talking about that cool Lexus commercial I saw yesterday.
Yeah.
And it overheard me, and now it knows that it should serve up that ad to me. So a lot of that stuff happens in a super automated fashion, and it happens really fast, and it just isn't human intervention in it. So it can be served up the blink of an eye.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask this again in a different way because I don't know that I got the clarity that I was looking for. So I'm gonna ask again. So you put in a lot of different words, a lot of big words and things like that. But to simplify it, what is AI in terms of like what does it do? Like what exactly does artificial intelligence do versus a really good algorithm?
Artificial intelligence is an algorithm. It is. It's the same thing. So at its core, right, we're ingesting data, we're applying a math and algorithm, and we're getting out some kind of prediction, classification, some kind of decision out of the data because it's identifying the patterns in the data, right?
Yeah.
The power of it is getting into those patterns that are beyond what our human brain can grab with the volume of data to identify that pattern because it's bigger. It's right. That's why computers are so powerful, is because they can grab the big stuff. But at its core, that's all it is. It's data, some math, and some kind of prediction, some kind of output. Now, it gets way more complicated, right? When we add in reinforcement learning. So it keeps learning as it makes a decision, and then what the input from that decision is leads it to make better and better decisions.
So it predicts future behavior based on past decisions.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So with that being said, talk about how HR, how it's affecting the wonderful field of HR.
HR, yeah. So HR is interesting. It is one of the slower areas of adoption. And we all have this idea in our head that we're dealing with humans, and humans are complex, and humans need other humans to interact, to have a genuine experience, or to actually understand what's happening. And the reality is that humans are really flawed too. Like we understand that any kind of AI is going to have some error involved. And so sometimes we write it off because we say it's not perfect. It's not going to catch every scenario. So we just write it off. And the reality is the humans mess up stuff all the time. Have you ever sat there doing an admin task for like 4 hours in a row? Like, I'm not good at it anymore. A computer is way better at it, continuing to do that, more mundane task than humans ever will be. So as we get into HR, I think the hiring and recruiting phase is really interesting. So we've all learned for a while, ever since we made the shift to exclusively applying to jobs online, that we have to write our resume in a certain way that we could get keyword recognition, right? And some recruiting software has grown beyond that, and some of it hasn't, right? So sometimes you still really are just did you put the keyword in there that you have a skill around a certain area? So as a data scientist, I always put down, yes, I know Python, right? And so that they grab Python and they flag me as we should look at this resume. But that's not AI, right? That's not, we're not getting there quite yet.
Right.
But what we can do is use some really intelligent new techniques around AI to read what is written on that resume and actually understand it.
Can you give me an example of what you mean by that?
Yeah. So natural language processing, NLP, is all pretty new in the world of, or I would say that there are cutting edge techniques that are really pushing AI forward. Working in NLP is super fun and super cool. One of the things that the systems understand at this point is semantic language. So you can use BERT, which is Google's open source software, where they used all of the data from Google for an enormous data set to teach semantic meaning of language to the model, which is an enormous undertaking, right?
What does that mean?
Yeah, so when we can say a phrase in 100 different ways, and it means the same thing.
Yeah.
So I need to deposit a check. I have some money I need to put in the bank. I have funds to relinquish. I don't know, right? Those all kind of mean they mean the same thing, but they're different words. And so computers understand math, right? And so for a long time we took words and we just converted them to math. We just, you can make an array out of it. You can, do some other techniques to check the frequency of words in a document, things like that. And we've done valuable and interesting work around text with that, but it's different. It's not understanding the meaning of it. But if I can say, I need to deposit a check at the bank and I'm going to the bank of the river, and the AI understands I'm not talking about the same bank. Those are two different things. So that semantic, the actual meaning of those words, once it understands that, well, now the language box is open, right? I can read somebody's resume, and I can read 1,000 different resumes, and they can all be talking about the same kind of thing, but people are going to talk about it in different ways. They're going to use different words. They're going to use different phrasings. They're going to make it unique. And now I can understand who's talking about the same core thing and who's not talking about something that's relevant to me. But I don't need a human to sit down and read 1,000 resumes. I can spend 10 minutes running it through a system, or even better, just automatically as they come in, right, and score them.
So how's that working out in the real world right now? Like with companies that are using HR or that are using AI in HR?
Adoption in real life is always tricky because you also need humans to trust the system and follow through on it.
Yeah.
But right now, folks who work in HR are feeling burned, right? And those who have adopted systems like this and who can lean on the technology to reduce the burden of the administrative work, the review work, so they can focus on the part that does need a human, right? You do, for now, still need a human to sit down and talk to somebody for an interview. There's some cool emerging things that we could do around that to like augment that system. But you still want a personal experience, right? So you do want human effort to go into tasks like that. And if you can remove the weight of the other admin and focus on those tasks, folks right now who are adopting it have an entirely different experience because I think every single human resource department and every single company is overburdened right now and is very stressed on the trying to recruit talent.
So if a company decides they want to move forward with the technology part and move forward with, having artificial intelligence help them with their recruiting, like what would that look like? Besides for the resume, or is it just the resume matching?
No, you can use it at every decision point along the way. If you are working with your IT department and capturing data, right, you can bringing in the right resumes is huge, right? That is an enormous administrative task that a lot of folks struggle with. We can also think about where are people applying for jobs and what sites and what ways and maybe times that people are applying for jobs. How do those patterns emerge in telling us what applicants are more likely to stick around? Right? Because we also have, once we've hired someone, so we found the good person, we spent the time interviewing them and hiring them, we want them to stick around because otherwise that's a sunk cost. If we can, and here's the part, right? We need to invest in our data infrastructure to capture that data so we can then identify the patterns in it, to understand, to inform the rest of our decision making. But if we do that, right? So if we track what sites get us the best applicants, what sites, what ways of applying, and what styles of resume are, increase the probability that person is going to be a good hire and stay on. What does it look like when they're a year into their employment? There's the interview. There's the HR personnel side of it. Right? So certain recruiters are going to be better at recruiting for certain job descriptions or for certain types of talent than other recruiters. And that pattern comes right out in the data too, so that you can have people focus on the thing they're most successful
at. Okay. So what do you see, where do you see, 5 years from now, right? Like what's the HR, especially the recruiting side, how do you think it's going to be with the implementation of artificial intelligence?
I think it's going to be far more automated. I think it's going to be much less about waiting for that phone call from someone. I think it's going to be more personalized, and I think it's going to be a higher touch system.
How is it going to be more personalized and more automated?
It almost feels like opposite, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's think about what does it feel like to have a personalized experience. We think of a person looks and sees us and can say something specific to us about our experience. It's usually not because they are our best friend, right? If I, it's more that you got that connection and that touch, and that they knew, why were you here? What did you apply for? Did they say hello and goodbye and thank you? And how was your experience? Was your drive-in okay? Right? Those are the things that make us feel like, yeah, that was really nice. That person cares about us. But what if we can cushion that within the systems of AI to say, now if I understand your resume, I understand your background, I saw where you came from, and I saw that you your home is 50 miles away. That is right. Like that's relevant information
Right.
to then we can put some automated, right? It's automated and it's coming from AI, but it's so much more personable to say like, yeah, it's a really far drive. How was your drive in? How was your experience? Were we on time for you? Right. Assuming they're coming in for a personal thing, but you can do that all along the way. How many times have you applied for a job and just got tumbleweed in response?
I mean, I was in the industry for a long time, and I can't begin to tell you that's my biggest pet peeve is people who are so excited because they see a job that's open. Job descriptions are so vague. It doesn't even say exactly what they're, what they're looking for. And then I've had so many friends whose resumes just go into the LinkedIn black hole or the black hole of the company website, and there's no responses. So I personally think that I almost feel like human beings are almost, it's not prioritized, and recruiting is the part about the company where you need the human element more than anything else. And from being in the industry for 15 years, that's one of the things that I absolutely cannot, like, I get so annoyed when that stuff happens.
Yeah.
So,
and you would never put up with it. It's interesting. I just want to call out the difference in industries, right? We all expect to have poor communication when we apply for a job because we know it's going to go into some system. Who knows? Like, hopefully, I've worked my network and I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody at that job. But like, we have very low expectations. Can you imagine returning an item at Amazon and not having like clear communication back? Right? Like, that's the part of the technology that it's totally figured out. Like, it's there. We can do it. We can understand who you are, what you purchased, what your patterns are, assess you, for fraud right away. So we make a decision about, whether we're going to refund your money immediately. All those things are automated on Amazon and it works great. We have a wonderful customer experience. We just have to take that technology and apply it in a different situation.
that's actually a really good way to put it. So that makes a lot of sense. And I think that people in general would just feel better if they got some kind of feedback, figuring out if they, what the company's doing with their resume or what the follow-up is after the interview. It's a huge pet peeve, right? So I'm going to post this on LinkedIn. Otherwise I would have probably used words that are probably not very appropriate. So, so if people want to learn more about, machine learning, artificial intelligence, what you're doing with your clients and all that, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn for sure. And so, hit that connect button. I love to have conversations about all this stuff too. So even if you just want to nerd out a little bit, I would love to chat more with anyone. And I try to keep my feed updated with things that I'm reading and learning about as well.
Awesome. Well, it's ironic that I meet you after I leave Baker Tilly, but I'm excited to see what your team does, because I think that's that stuff is exciting to me. So I'm glad we got to connect regardless. I'm glad Chris connected us. So if anybody has any questions, they can reach out directly to Mary. But I think we'll talk again, Mary, about this, in a couple months, because I think there's going to be a lot more that I'm going to be doing around this. So
wonderful. Sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. All right. Let me just hit